Good evening, everybody. Thanks for everyone for attending the meeting of the Planning Committee on the 20th of January 2026. It's our first one of the new year. Happy New Year, everybody, even though it seems a long time since. I'm Councillor June Molyneux, Chair of the Committee. Councillor Nev Whittam is Vice Chair. Please note the meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. If you're in attendance as a member of the public who's registered to speak, please note you'll have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and confirm when your time runs out. You should then finish speaking or wind up if you're in the middle of making a point, otherwise your microphone will be muted. To assist in following the evening's proceedings, a pack's been prepared and is available online, containing each item's report, plans, presentation slides and any other addendums. After officers have presented the report and speakers have made representations, I'll invite members to make their comments. When members wish to speak, please raise your hand, and when invited to speak, remember to use your microphone and reference the paragraph page number, which will allow everyone to follow. Please keep in mind that some people require closed captions and or lip reading to follow the proceedings, so try to speak slowly and clearly and keep your hands away from your mouth. Please can everybody ensure that the phones are turned off or to silent. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarms sound, please exit the same way as you came in. Apologies. I've had apologies from Councillor Singh. Have we had any more? No, Matthew, right. Thank you. We're moving on. Declarations of any interests. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in the agenda. If you have such an interest, you must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed, but you do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence the decision on the matter. I've had two, Councillor Snow, I'm going to say Councillor Snow declared a non-pecuniary interest in application 3A, and Councillor Hilton is to speak as a ward councillor of application 3B. So, and then excuse himself from the meeting for the rest of that item. So with that, item 2, minutes of the meeting, the 10th of December, pages 3 to 6. Can somebody move those, please? Thank you. Seconded. Yes, Councillor Net. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Wish that everything went as quick. It won't. Planning applications to be determined. For the benefit of the public here tonight, the speaking arrangements for the planning applications are as follows. Officers will summarise the report. Registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order: objector, supporter, parish or town councillor, ward councillor, applicant or agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes, apart from a ward councillor who may speak for up to 5 minutes. In the event that all speakers are against an application, as chair, I may grant the applicant or representative a time extension. I would respectfully ask members of the public who have not registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings. With that, we will move on to item 3A. Charter Lane, Charnock, Richard, pages 7 to 66, with an update on your addendum. Kevin's going to present this item. The recommendation is planning permission is granted subject to conditions and as section 106 legal agreement as outlined in the report. I have a number of speakers registered. I've got an objector, Colette Jolly, parish councillor, Janet Bowen, the ward councillor, Councillor Singh, and the agent, Sarah Jones. Kevin, over to you, please. Your report.
Thanks, Chair. This application is for a second phase of development at Charter Lane, Charnock, Richard. It seeks 57 affordable dwellings with access taken through the Phase 1 scheme, parking, landscaping and other associated works. The site is 1.45 hectares of generally flat, undeveloped land within the settlement boundary. It adjoins Phase 1, which was for 76 dwellings, which is now under construction to the north. Existing housing lies to the east and west, with the football cricket club area to the south. The proposal is for 12 one-bed, 12 two-bed, 21 three-bed and 12 four-bed homes, up to 2 storeys, with some rooms in the roof. Since submission, the scheme has been amended to reduce units from 60 to 57, retain a hedgerow, adjust the mix and space standards within the dwellings, widen footways and provide additional drainage and highways information. The density is consistent with phase 1 and not out of keeping locally. 23 objections have been received, and these are summarised at paragraph 6 of the main report and in the addendum report. The 3 main issues raised at the previous planning committee are addressed in the updated report. These are the sustainability of the location. Whilst Charnock Richard isn't targeted for major growth in the adopted local plan, the site is allocated in the emerging Central Lancashire local plan, and this must be given additional weight when making a determination. Officers conclude that the adverse impacts do not significantly or demonstrably outweigh the considerable economic and social benefits of the affordable housing provision. The phase 2 surface water will be attenuated within the site, beneath the parking and public open space areas, and released at a controlled rate into the phase 1 basin, which members will have seen on site at the site visit, and then to the culverted Clancut Brook. The pond is sized for both phases of the development, although some upgrades are required. The LLFA raised no objection, subject to detailed pre-commencement drainage conditions and verification before occupation. These are listed conditions 24 to 27 in the report. There is an emergency access proposed via Carter Fold. LCC Highways have no objections to an emergency-only link with bollards to prevent general traffic. It also offers an active travel route for walking and cycling. An additional condition is proposed to secure design measures preventing non-emergency vehicle use. The main vehicular access is through the approved phase 1. It will now serve 133 dwellings in total. The visibility, width and swept paths remain acceptable. In response to concerns that the previous traffic counts were just after the COVID period, LCC required a robust sensitivity test. The applicant doubled background traffic to 2030 levels alongside growth, junction modelling at Charter and Chorley Lane, Charter Lane and Church Lane, and the site access shows operation well within capacity, even under the double growth scenario. LCC therefore raised no objection, subject to conditions which include a full travel plan to be implemented and a Section 106 contribution of £40,000 per year for 3 years to subsidise a local bus route, and this will be timed so it doesn't overlap with the bus contributions received from phase 1. The design of the proposed dwellings continues a simple contemporary pallet, and interface distances with adjacent properties exceed council guidelines, avoiding unacceptable overlooking or overbearing impacts. Temporary construction impacts, noise and dust, etc., will be addressed by a construction environmental management plan condition. Tree losses are limited, with 3 trees removed and 2 small groups, and 49 new trees are proposed within the landscaping scheme. Following revisions, the Council's BNG officer and Greater Manchester Ecology Unit raised no objections to the proposal. A condition secures a 10% biodiversity net gain via on-site measures and off-site units, and additional ecological mitigations are also secured by condition. 2 Grade 2 listed assets lie about 200 metres to the north of the site. Given the distance and the intervening development and vegetation between the sites, officers find no harm to the setting of these heritage assets. The site is in flood zone 1, and national guidance allows a proportionate approach with the site-specific strategy and conditions. A sequential test isn't required. United Utilities raised no objection, subject to the water main protection and detailed foul and surface water conditions. Pre-commencement and verification conditions control design, operation and maintenance of the outfalls. There is a policy conflict with the settlement strategy. However, the Council's housing position and the fact that the site is allocated for residential use in the emerging Central Lancashire local plan means that the proposals will bring a significant social benefit of 57 affordable homes. This outweighs the very limited harm identified. On that basis, officers recommend approval, subject to the conditions listed in the report and the Section 106 requirements as set out in paragraph 1 of the main report. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. Hang on, let's glasses off. Colette, please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair and members. So here we go again. I speak in strong opposition on behalf of many local residents. The message is clear: the harm caused by this proposal significantly and demonstrably outweighs any claimed benefit. This development is fundamentally unsustainable for this location and will create severe and unacceptable impacts on highway safety and on the environment. Planning policy says that development in Charnock should be limited in scale, focused on modest infill and genuine local needs, not large housing estates. And we're not saying don't build anything, we accept the site is allocated, but the scale of this proposal far exceeds what the village can reasonably support. Planning policy is clear: new housing should go where it's sustainable, with proper access to jobs, services and public transports, none of which exist here. Economically, it brings nothing but a handful of short-term jobs. Socially, there's no shop, no doctor, no secondary school, and barely any services within walking distance, forcing every resident to rely on a car by necessity, not choice. Public transport is poor, and temporary subsidies won't fix that. Walking and cycling almost impossible. Placing affordable homes in an unsustainable location is not a social benefit. Policy is clear: affordable housing should meet demonstrable local need, not national demand and developer profit. There's no clear evidence that the scale of this development meets any proven local need for Charnock or Chorley, which further undermines any claimed social benefits. Environmentally, the proposal is detrimental. It fails to meet any statutory environmental standards or encourage sustainable travel. Local infrastructure is overloaded. Residents are already living with worsening flooding since phase 1. Further hard surfacing will only aggravate it. The developer plans to rely on the same drainage scheme that has already failed, which will only compound an existing and unresolved problem. It's not sustainable, not socially, not economically, not environmentally. Turning to highway safety, the harm here is severe. Charter Lane and nearby roads are narrow and frequently congested, especially at school times and match days. Traffic chaos is routine, footpaths are limited, visibility at key junctions is poor, and children walk along these roads. The traffic survey data is 4 years old, from a time when Charter Lane served fewer than 20 homes. Since then, 76 houses have already been built, 57 more proposed, yet the survey has never been updated. Any modelling based on inaccurate data is simply unreliable, so the suggestion that these roads can simply absorb that level of traffic is not credible. These are real risks, not theoretical or modelled by a computer. Finally, the update report confirms that using Charterfold as an emergency access road is not a requirement of the development and is unlikely ever to be used. So why have it if it serves no essential planning function, yet causes unnecessary harm to existing residents? So to summarise, the development is far too large for Charnock, it's unsustainable and delivers no credible long-term benefits, it poses serious risks to the environment and road safety, especially children, and it brings unjustified and harmful infrastructure. The benefits are minimal, the damage is permanent, and the planning balance is clear, and I strongly urge members to refuse this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Janet, would you like to do yours?
Regarding the flooding around phase 2, most villagers will testify to the land never flooding like this before in their lifetime. The flooding to Mossy Close is a direct result of phase 1. The development site has been raised 1.2 metres. Not only do the gardens flood, but full views into neighbouring gardens have taken their privacy away. The water attenuation system installed to serve the development is clearly inadequate and cannot support the current phase 1. It will therefore fail considerably if it is to support phase 2 as well. Chorley Borough Council's Planning Committee members and planning officers must consider the detrimental implications of allowing phase 2 development at this site to go ahead. Flooding of adjacent land, including the parish council play area and football club field pitches, together with homeowners' gardens adjacent to the site, is an absolute certainty. This in turn will lead to a huge number of claims for compensation, including the parish council, for damage to safety surfacing and undermining the stability of the play equipment installed at the site on Mossy, together with the football club and Charnock Richard United Charity Trustees for flooding. Stop over-intensification development at this site. Originally 117 houses were planned, and we now have 79. At further 57, that's nearly 20 houses more, and 16% added to our village total. The village has no amenities and a lack of school places. The site is unsustainable, and absolutely nowhere do the benefits of the application outweigh the adverse impacts of these proposals, both significantly and demonstrably. There are already traffic queues at peak times shown on the photographs that I sent round, causing risk to pedestrians and school children. People on the development will have to use a car for nearby amenities, causing more risk and environmental issues. The Parish Council argue that the proposals definitely conflict with the Policy 1 of CLCS and indeed the development plan overall. The framework supports concentrated development in the most sustainable locations. This is clearly not a sustainable development due to the lack of facilities and amenities in the village, and the fact that to access those essential facilities and amenities, it is highly likely that a car will be required by most of the residents on this development, which will in turn have significant detrimental highway and environmental implications. The Parish Council, it's a full yeah. The Parish Council argue that the impact of the additional proposals for the site are unreasonable, unsustainable and unsuitable, and the adverse impacts of them has been significantly underestimated. The significant detrimental impact of these additional Phase 2 proposals very clearly outweigh the economic and social benefits in Charnock, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Singh.
Chair, members of the committee, I speak today as the Ward Councillor for Eccleston, Heskin and Charnock Richard, and I ask members to refuse this application and stand by the residents and the Parish Council. This is not an objection to affordable housing. My request is based on clear planning harm. When this proposal is assessed against the adopted development plan and the National Planning Policy Framework. Members, the primary reason for refusal is the proposal's fundamental conflict with the settlement strategy set out in Policy 1 of the Central Lancashire Core Strategy and Policy Version 2 of the Chorley Local Plan. Policy 1 is clear that in settlements such as Charnock Richard, the development should be small scale and limited. This proposal, combined with Phase 1, would deliver 133 dwellings on one site. That can't be reasonably described as a small-scale development. Paragraph 81 of the NPPF requires decisions to be plan-led, and paragraph 11 does not remove the reliance of the development strategy simply because of the tilted balance. The scale of this proposal would undermine the settlement hierarchy, which is a core component of the adopted plan. This site fails the test of sustainability set out in paragraph 8 of the NPPF. It conflicts with the core strategy of policies 1 and 17. Charnock Richard has no GP, no pharmacy, no secondary school, no shop, no supermarket. Future residents are heavily reliant on a private car for everyday needs, contrary to paragraph 105 and 110 of the NPPF, which seek to minimise the travel needed by a car and promote genuine access to services. The proposal relies heavily on time-limited bus services, which can't be guaranteed over the lifetime of the development. This is not sustainable. Members, you should also give significant weight to the harm caused by overdevelopment, contrary to the core strategy, Chorley Local Plan, BNE 1 and paragraphs 130 and 135 of the NPPF. At approximately 39 dwellings per hectare, this is dense. urban form of development on the edge of a village. The parish council and residents have constantly objected to the cramped layout and the heavy reliance on Mews-style housing, which is out of the keeping of the character of both Phase 1 and the wider area. Paragraph 130 of the NPPF requires development to be sympathetic to the local character, and paragraph 135 states that development should be refused where it fails to create a strong sense of place. This proposal fails both tests. The proposal relies on the Phase 1 surface water drainage system, which both residents and the parish council have observed operating at near or at capacity during heavy rainfall, and members will have seen that today on the site visit. This raises serious concerns under the Core Strategy Policy 29, Chorley Local Plan Policy EP1 and paragraphs 159 to 167 of the NPPF. Paragraph 159 of the NPPF is clear that development should not increase flood elsewhere. Given the cumulative nature of the scheme, members are entitled to apply a precautionary approach to this. The proposed emergency access on Charter Fold would harm residential amenity, contrary again to Chorley Local Plan Policy BNE1 and paragraph 135F of the National Planning Policy. This is a private residential track and is designated as an emergency access, introduces uncertainty, disturbance and enforcement issues for the existing residents. Members, I'm stood here today as the ward councillor asking for your support to stand with the ward councillors, to stand with the parish councillors, to stand with the residents. I acknowledge the council's housing land supply position. However, paragraph 11D of the NPPF allows refusal where the adverse impacts significantly significantly outweigh the benefits. The benefits of this proposal are generic. The harms are specific, cumulative and irreversible. If we can just finish off. So the conflict to the settlement strategy is unsustainable, it's overdevelopment, it's the drainage risk and it's harm to the residential amenity. Taken together, these harms significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. So I stand to ask you as members of the committee, please listen to the residents, listen to the parish council who will live there on a daily basis and know what it's like, and refuse this application. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for visiting the site earlier today. You'll have seen the high quality of dwellings and the site arrangements on Phase 1, which was, when fully completed, will also include landscaping to that frontage areas as well. The main points raised in member discussions in the last committee are covered in the update report. West Church accept the additional condition in respect of confirming the emergency access route is just for that limited vehicular purpose, along with pedestrian and cycle access. It can be signed and used for such limited purposes only. Generally, its use is only going to be for residents who are generally walking or to or from Chorley Lane side of the village, so it will be a limited use. We note the Parish Council further response. It raises no new points of information of technical matters that have not been considered by your officers and statutory consultees and found to be acceptable. This includes drainage that can be addressed by normal planning condition discharges. In this respect, the football area is understood to have previously experienced waterlogging and cancelled matches. We're not aware that this is the first time it has happened. Some flooding to roads in the area was also referenced prior to Phase 1 being granted. Therefore, the relationship to the recent development is questioned. The Phase 1 area drains to the north and via the attenuation basin area and the use of underground attenuation tanks, so it would not result in flow in an opposite direction towards the pitch or play area or to the south. Similarly, the Phase 2 area surface water scheme is designed with attenuation tanks on site and flow controls to drain northwards via phase 1 without exceeding overall capacity. Again, its development would not result in impacts or flows towards the football area or southwards. The discharge of condition drainage information will be fully assessed by the statutory consultees and officers and for agreement, and whilst West Church are highly experienced in delivering schemes that meet relevant standards. The traffic updates in the report were undertaken in line with relevant surveys and relevant standards and means for assessment. Separately, and with assistance to local stakeholders, West Church are willing to liaise with the football club on potential drainage matters that they may be considering in their site. Also with the parish council on potential contacts the company has at LCC or the United Utilities to enable councillors to request checking or clearance of highway drains or surface water sewers, which, if blockages are happening in the area, may be causing issues. The company has also at times assisted with local drain clearing themselves following discussions with their relevant engineers when they are at site and in liaison with relevant stakeholders such as parish councils. Such contact with local parties was undertaken in Lostock Hall associated with a 50-unit scheme there that was successfully delivered, so that opportunity may be available to the local parish council and other parties. The site does remain for allocation, and a tilted balance does allow policy of the adopted development plan to be out of date and minimal weight applied to them unless the benefits are significantly outweighed. As such, we will kindly request the application be recommended for approval is endorsed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back on anything, Kevin? Oh, you might.
Yeah, just to come back on a couple of points, Chair. Firstly, on the drainage and flood risk, just to confirm that LCC are the lead local flood authority in this area, and they've been consulted on the application and are satisfied with the information provided today, as are United Utilities. And then just to come back on, I just really want to reiterate the point that the site is allocated in the emerging local plan for housing development. The local plan is now at an advanced stage. The examination is almost complete. We will hopefully be adopting that plan later on this year, and at which point the existing Central Lancashire Core Strategy and the Chorley local plan won't be part of the development plan at that point. So we can give that more weight in the decision-making process. So I just wanted to make that point clear that the site is an allocated site in the emerging plan. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. Over to you, no, I'm sorry, you can't speak here. Over to you, members. Councillor Whittaker.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Southern. Councillor Wilkie and Councillor Hilton. Right, I've got everybody now.
Okay.
Carry on.
Councillors, you've heard the points of my fellow ward councillor and the parish council and the residents. I'm not going to repeat all of them, but they're all very well made. This application was deferred in December for a site visit. I proposed refusal then, and I do so again now. I make the point, planning committees are not housing committees, they're not social services committees, nor are they highway committees. We deal with planning, whether it's a good application or whether it's not. That's basically what I want to say. What's proposed here is 57 properties on top of the 76 already approved. As Mr. Foster indicated, 12 one-bedroomed, 12 two-bedroomed, 21 three-bedroomed and 12 four-bedroomed. A total of 133. That represents almost a 16% increase on the number of households in Charnock Richard. Even more of a percentage if you consider the triangle of Chorley Lane, Charter Lane and Church Lane. I accept that we need affordable housing. I accept that we need shared ownership across the borough. But do we need it here? I think not. That's not a NIMBY syndrome. It's not in my backyard. It's not good planning. Why? The traffic situation, as you've heard, is awful. The junctions are dangerous, despite what the highway authorities say. The school is full. There is not one shop in the village. General practice services, doctor services are in Coppull, which means that all these residents are going to have to use the cars. What does LC Highway suggest? Well, even though the survey is outdated, as has been said, we'll subsidise the bus service for 3 years. Then what? What happens then? Chaos. The residents refer to flooding as a result of what's been built already. And we've seen in the report somewhere attenuation tanks. Well, we've seen these attenuation tanks all over developments across the borough. And they're supposed to release the water when it's appropriate to do so and the access is good. It doesn't work. The pond, and well, I just managed to catch the site agent because I went to the site when I went to the thing. The site agent indicated that it worked. Residents know that it doesn't. Photos which were on the presentation don't show the flooding area. We've seen some of them that have been sent round. The report admits that Charnock Richard was not classified for growth in the borough plan. That's a fact. It says that in the report. This scheme totally goes against that. We've got a borough council, and Mr. Foster indicated it now, suggesting that we've built more than enough housing to satisfy government targets. This should be refused. The talk about the local flood authority, well, residents know differently. It talks about United Utilities. United Utilities never object to any application whatsoever. Residents know what the situation is, and if this goes ahead, 133 properties in a village that was never designed or designated for growth will be a disaster. So I make the proposal, Chairman, that it be refused. Thank you.
Councillor Southern, please.
Thank you, Chair. Bear with me, my voice is about to pack up. Good. Did you just say good?
Yes.
Fair enough. I asked, or rather voted at the last meeting, to defer this application to have a site visit, to which I've attended today. And I had grave reservations at the time, Chair, and those grave reservations still exist. I think it's the wrong development in the wrong place. I think it's overdeveloped and out of scale. I don't think it fits in with the village of Charnock, Richard. I'm just not particularly in love with the scheme. However, all the consultees that we've gone out to, and I've studied them in detail, have all come back to us and effectively said it complies. Well, I've got to weigh up, and I would attenuate to my committee members is, if we refuse this scheme and it goes to appeal, we'll lose. It's as simple as that. And in balancing my decision, I'm also giving a great deal of weight to the conditions that we've applied to this application, which are numerous. Well, I can't countenance is losing the weight we've attached to those conditions at appeal. I think the conditions we've applied are strenuous, tested, and I think do a lot to mitigate a lot of what I don't like about this scheme. And I don't like this scheme, by the way. Just to be clear about this, I don't like this scheme. I think it's wrong for Charnock, Richard. I don't think it works. For all the reasons that have been mentioned, particularly over amenities, I think it's way overscaled. However, I've got to balance what I see as the application put forward, what chances it would have of success at appeal if this is refused. And it would fail. It's as simple as that. I don't like saying that, and it gives me no pleasure. So, with a heavy heart and much reluctance, I propose we accept officer's recommendation to approve this application. As I say, that gives me no pleasure. I have grave reservations over it, but I'm not prepared and I cannot countenance losing the conditions we've attached to this, which have been gone into in great detail in terms of house sizes, in terms of the density that has been reduced slightly, not as much in my opinion, but I cannot say that refusing this application would benefit us, because it wouldn't. It would be turned over in appeal and would be left back to square one again. So for that reason, Chair, I propose we accept officer's recommendations for this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Chair. This original development, phase 1, was refused planning permission, I believe, if that's correct, and on appeal was awarded. So that meant that all conditions stipulated in the original application were disallowed. Is that correct?
That's not correct. I don't know the precise details of that appeal, but the inspector did include a suite of conditions on there.
Right, okay. So I didn't go to the site visit today because of my work, but I did actually go on Sunday and I did a full walk round for about an hour and a half. I went round the village and I looked for myself. I actually spoke to a resident that moved in there 4 days previously, and she came from out of town, from Leyland. And she moved into the property with 2 small children, a baby and a youngster. And I was quite appalled that on a Sunday that the parking down Charter Lane was such. How would she get down that narrow pavement with a pram? And we're talking about a bus service that's been protected for 3 years. Now, I didn't actually ask the lady, did she have a car? Was that relevant? I think it is. Because I saw a lot of cars parked down that street on a Sunday. Now, what is it like during the week? School pickups, drop-offs. And we're talking about a village with a village vibe, a small village school. How do I know? My son went there. They have small intakes, small classrooms, and we're talking about properties of 133. And of those, a lot of them are family properties. So we're going to swamp that area with children. Low-cost housing and shared housing schemes bring families, and they are going to swamp that area. And that school is not going to be able to cope. So then what happens is we force out villagers. That's not a planning consideration, but it's a considerable thing to think about when we're saying that LCC are turning around and saying they've no objection. The other thing I saw was surface water flooding. Now, it might have been assessed in 1974 by a man with a paper desk, assessment of the area, and because of the land lie and all the rest of it, it's flood zone 1. But when you've got locals telling you it's flooding, it's flooding. When you've got football fields underwater, it's flooding. This attenuation tank was shallow, and in my opinion, I've got one on my estate, and I've seen what happens when it rains. It overflows. That is a very shallow attenuation tank, and it's spilling over onto the road on heavy rainfall, and I saw it with my own eyes. So I don't agree that it's working, and I don't agree that another 57 proposed properties is going to improve the situation. I think the report's incorrect. The pavements are not 3 metres wide down Charter Lane all the way down. They're not sustainable for pedestrians. It's not safe. We've got cars parked everywhere. I think the highway assessment is completely ludicrous. An assessment of traffic and traffic flow done from 2022 was done prior to this development, which has now got 76 dwellings already there with 2 cars, most of them, because they're not all social housing. They are help to buy schemes. So there's a lot of people in the area moving in from out of the area. So this is forcing locals out of their own town, probably. I was actually appalled at how the developer has been so disrespectful to people down Charter Lane, because I could see properties through somebody's front window. They were so close and encroaching on the properties. We're doing these people a disservice. We're pushing them out of their own town. there's no shops, quite correctly. Councillor Whitaker's correct. Councillor Singh's correct. There's no shops. It's 2 miles to the nearest supermarket. Convenience stores are on Moor Road or Coppull. There's no doctors. There's no post office. There's no infrastructure. Where are these people going to get the food from? I'll tell you, Deliveroo. They're going to get Tesco's, Asda, and Morrison's to do food drops. And where are they going to do those food drops? They're going to be up and down this road all manner of times, delivering, and this emergency road is crazy with a bollard. Who's going to man that? Because let's be honest, they're going to park. You're going to have delivery drivers, Amazon drivers parking up that road, blocking people's access to their houses. There are 2 properties up that side lane where that emergency road is. I spent an hour and a half circulating myself round that area, and I don't think it's sustainable. I think there's far too many properties there. We're being blackmailed by a developer that they will go to appeal and they'll win anyway, probably. So we will have no conditions. I don't agree with some of the assessments. I'm sorry to say that. And I feel very sorry for people in Charter Lane that are living in properties that they bought behind them with pastures. You know, there were horses grazing on them. They had nature on the doorstep. They haven't got that now. And I wholeheartedly do agree with social housing, but the people that are moving into that area are not getting what they've promised, because a lot of them, and in fact, that lady told me her sister was offered a house and she turned it down because she's no car. A 2-hourly bus service is not sustainable. Where are these bus stops? How are people going to get there? And for 3 years, they're going to have a protected bus service. What then? Quite correct, Councillor Whitaker. In 3 years' time, when that money's dried up and those buses stop running, these people are going to be stuck in a place with no shops and no hope, isolated with no support network, more than likely being brought in from outside the county, because this housing association advertises on its website in Liverpool. So we could have anybody moving into this area, and I feel it for them. They may not have support. People are moving into the area, and it's an uncomfortable truth, whether we like it or not. And I feel it's over-intensification, not in line with our policies, BNE1, etc. And I could sit here and rhyme them all off. It's in the emerging local plan only because it's an existing development. We have to include it, but we don't have to include these extras. Why can't we have allotments there for people? Yeah, sorry. I've said too much, but I only feel it's fair. So I agree. I would second Councillor Whitaker's proposal for refusal.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few things to say, but just in response to what Councillor Wilkie said, I think you should retract the accusation that the developer is going to blackmail the committee. There is no evidence of that, and developers, if this were to be refused this evening, they have a legal right to an appeal. It's not a threat. So can I suggest that you retract that comment about being blackmailed? I'd just like to thank Councillor Singh and the Speaker, Colette and Janet from the Parish Council. I think you've spoken in very good grace there, considering that we're here again. There's another application coming up this evening. It seems like Groundhog Day in this committee this evening, which is unfortunate. I don't believe people will be using cars. I do believe people will be using cars. That's just unfortunately the way things are. Charter Lane is a nightmare. I've driven down it quite a few times, and when I've seen it, it's a nightmare. I've also seen a significant amount of flooding down there, so I have every sympathy for the residents, the parish council and the ward members that are discussing that. What we have got to look at, though, is the fact that the Lead Local Flood Authority have said that's okay, and it's really difficult for us to challenge that because I'm not an expert on flooding. I might not agree with it, but I've got to go on what they're saying on that one. This is not a small-scale development, it's a large-scale development, quite clearly, and that does concern me, especially in this rural area. And a lot of people have been talking about lack of infrastructure. Now, it probably should be the other way around, but development will bring infrastructure rather than the other way around. It would be lovely to have the infrastructure there first, but development will actually bring that. Buckshaw Village is a classic example of that. I used to live there many years ago, and there was one little tiny shop, and then as it grew, then we started to get Tesco coming in, we started to get Aldi and things like that. I'm not saying they're going to build a Tesco and an Aldi in Charnock, I don't think they are, but there will be some infrastructure to come along with the development. So that it's a real challenge. It shouldn't be that way around. It is. The doctor's surgery in Coppull is not oversubscribed, but I agree residents shouldn't have to go that far to get there. What we've got to look at in this is that we can now start to put significant weight on the emerging Central Lancashire local plan. We are at an advanced stage, the final stage of examination, and Central Lancashire local plan has stated that this is a site for future housing development. Looking at the development, yes, it's not small scale, but equally I don't believe it's an over-intensification of the site. It could have been a lot more, they could have put a lot more on there. But I do have every sympathy with the residents on there. Like I say, we've been here again, and thank you for speaking with dignity and good grace this evening. But as it's for development in the new local plan, very reluctantly, I will second Councillor Southern's recommendation for officer recommendations. I don't particularly want to do that, and I don't feel comfortable in doing that. However, this is an allocated site for delivery in the new local plan, and Chorley's needs to adopt this local plan, and we just have to accept it, unfortunately. I fully understand what you're saying, and I can only apologise, but this is the way that the law is, this is the way planning policy is, and it's been identified through a consultation for that particular site. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Kevin, you wanted to come in, didn't you?
Thanks, Chair. Just to come back on a few points raised by Councillor Wilkie. So, firstly on school places. So, Lancashire County Council as local education authority have been consulted on the application, and they said, taking into account all approved applications, latest projections for local primary schools within a 2-mile radius and local secondary schools within a 3-mile radius show there to be sufficient school places in 5 years' time to accommodate the development. There was an education contribution of 92,000 as part of the phase 1 development that was secured to provide for school places as well. In terms of the traffic flows, yes, they were taken in 2022, but there was an uplift which essentially doubled those traffic levels. So in reality, traffic levels haven't doubled in the last 4 years. But they've taken that approach, which also takes into account the number of new houses that have already been approved. And LCC was satisfied that that level of traffic movement can be accommodated within the area. Just on the privacy, so the proposals meet all the council standards in terms of separation distances, so there is no unacceptable overlooking that'll occur. And the sustainability of the location, I think members need to bear in mind that phase 1 of the development was deemed sustainable by the planning inspectorate as part of the appeal that was considered a couple of years ago. And again, the site is allocated, just to reiterate again, the site is allocated in the emerging local plan. It's not just phase 1 that's allocated, the location of phase 2 is also part of that allocation for development. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'm going to move to the vote because we've discussed it for a long time. I said anybody different, Councillor Whittaker, but sure.
It's been proposed for refusal. The only point I would make that Mr Foster just referred to, LCC talked about schools within a 3-mile radius. That means that the children are going to have to travel. They're going to have to travel. They're not going to go to the local school, which is at the corner of the street. They're going to have to travel into Chorley, into Coppull, and that's going to add to the traffic. So when it talks about schools within a 3-mile radius, therefore it's okay and it's sustainable, it's nonsense. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, anybody else? If not, I'm going to move to the vote. Okay. Councillor Wilkie.
I believe I should retract my statement. So I will retract that, even though my sentiment is that it will, And going back to the schools, they will do the schools on the development will get in before people that live in Charnock Richard. That's the point. Thank you.
Okay, right. Can we move to the vote, please, Dan? Thank you. What I'm going to do, I'll take the amendment for, if you have a proposer and a seconder for refusal, a proposer and a seconder for the officer recommendation. Take the amendment first. So this is for the amendment. To vote to approve the amendment. So you're voting for the amendment, you're voting for refusal, Councillor Whittaker, as well you know.
So members have voted in favour of officer recommendation, subject to section 106 agreement.
Okay, thank you. Anybody who's just come for that application, please feel free. We'll not make you sit through the rest of the meeting. Yeah, and it's got... If you're quick, you'll get in, Councillor Snow. Okay. Moving on. To item, there's nobody new coming, so that's all right. Moving on to item 3B, Land off Mill Lane, Coppull, pages 67 to 88, with an update on your addendum. Ian's going to present this item. The recommendation is permission in principle is granted. I have 3 registered speakers, the objector, Alex Heffernan, Ward Councillor, Alex Hilton, and the agent, Alexis DePaul. Ian, can you present the report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks permission in principle for the erection of up to 2 dwellings on land to the west of the Mill Pond at Mill Lane, Coppull. The application site is located in the settlement area and is designated as public open space in the Chorley local plan. The application site itself largely comprises an area of hard standing. The scope of application seeking permission in principle is limited to location, land use and amount of development. Other matters should be considered at the technical details consent stage should permission in principle be granted. As such, matters relating to highways, ecology, drainage, character, neighbour amenity impacts fall outside of the scope of what the local planning authority can consider and assess as part of this current application. In considering matters of principle, the framework supports the delivery of new homes on small sites as part of the housing mix, whilst the site is located in a sustainable location, which is supported by the development hierarchy set out in Policy 1 of the Central Lancashire Core Strategy. The proposal would involve the loss of part of an area of public open space that is designated under Policy HW2 of the Chorley local plan. This policy seeks to protect such sites unless it can be demonstrated that specific criteria can be met. In this instance, there is considered to be an adequate alternative open space in the locality. The public open space is not identified as being as high quality. The part of the site that would be developed doesn't detract, it doesn't form a recreational function in and of itself, and it doesn't make any beneficial contribution to the character of the area, being an area of hard standing, whilst no trees would need to be removed as part of this proposal. Although the public open space is identified as being of high value, the proposed development would result in the loss of only a small proportion of the public open space on a less valuable part of the site. Furthermore, it's noted that policy HW2 of the Chorley local plan is out of date and has been superseded by the framework and emerging local plan, which are less prescriptive and which the proposal complies with. Given the benefits of providing a small housing development in a sustainable location in compliance with the framework and Central Lancashire local plan, it's considered that the proposed development is acceptable in principle, and it's therefore recommended that permission in principle be approved. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Have I got Alan, please?
Thank you for allowing me to. My name is Alan Heffernan. Good evening. I'm here as a resident of Coppull, and in particular as a representative of others like me who have concern and live beside the proposed application site. We're collectively puzzled by the resurrection of this proposal, which we understood to have already been through the planning process in full and was refused by the committee. And then it was appealed. This appeal was then considered by an independent planning inspector who agreed with the council's decision and dismissed the appeal. It's worth noting that the inspector's findings recognise that this land provides a welcome break in the built-up development feel of the area and contributes positively to the character of the area, a view we certainly share, as this area is cited central to both Mill Lane as well as the recently constructed housing development there, providing a crucial and well-used leisure amenity for walking, bird watching and fishing, including many competitions. There's also the hard standing being referred to is also a car parking facility which would be denied if the application went through. This is all for a very densely populated area, all of which we would feel would be adversely impacted by the proposed loss of a substantial part of this green space the proposal would detail. We further wish to highlight that whilst the previous application included ecological information, this one does not. And as the land lies within a designated wildlife area, we are sure you would agree with our concerns that without up-to-date ecological information, it's impossible to ascertain what the true impact would be. Whilst we recognise that new housing will always be in many ways desirable, we feel that this should be tempered with a careful consideration to ensure that new developments should always be in the right place. With this site having already been rejected as unsuitable twice now, we respectfully ask that members take account of the previous appeal decision, the lack of ecological information, the impact of leisure facility loss to the residents, and the very limited benefit the proposal represents. Many thanks for the time you've given me this evening.
Thank you. And Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. It seems rather odd being sat here. This is the first time I've spoken as a ward councillor at planning, and that is due to multiple residents coming to me to complain about this application. They feel let down by the system. This proposal has come before members again against a clear recent planning history. A previous application on this site was refused by the committee. That refusal was subsequently upheld by a planning inspector at appeal. The inspector agreed with the council's concerns and dismissed the appeal. So in that context, the decision to resubmit an application on this site, even in a reduced form, has caused significant concern locally. The people of Coppull deserve better than to see their protected and valued site repeatedly brought forward for development. Many residents find this application to be disrespectful to the people of Coppull, to the community, to the committee that made the decision, and to the planning inspector who upheld it. Now, I know our Chief Planning Officer's referred to an appeal in the last one. I'm going to refer to the appeal in this one as well to back up my arguments. So with that background in mind, I'd like to set out some substantive planning reasons as to why this application should again be refused. So the first one is loss of protected open space and harm to character. So the application site forms part of an area of designated open space and represents a value break in the built form, making significant contribution to the character and the appearance of the area. The proposed development will be built form into this open space, resulting in an urbanising effect that would erode the openness and harm and character of the area. This harm was previously identified and upheld by the planning inspector, who dismissed the appeal. This remains directly applicable to the current proposal. No material change in circumstances has been demonstrated to justify the different conclusion. The proposal, therefore, would be contrary to policy HW2 of the Chorley Local Plan, which seeks to protect open space that contributes positively to the visual amenity and character of the area. Talking about leisure in the area, there are fishing competitions here, there are children learning to fish with their families. To say that it's not used is incorrect in the report. So another reason is unjustified loss of protected open space. So it would result in a permanent loss of designated open space in favour of residential development. The application fails to demonstrate that the site is surplus to requirements, that the alternative provision or equivalent or better quality will be provided, or that the loss would otherwise be justified. In these circumstances where the local planning authority can demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, which, looking at our upcoming local plan, we could argue that actually no, we can, because we're at the final stage. This proposal would deliver no more than 2 dwellings at the same time, and the limited housing benefit does not outweigh the harm arising from the loss of protected open space. So this is actually contradictory to policy HW2 of the Chorley Local Plan, policy HC6 of the Central Lancashire Local Plan 2023 to 2024, the submission version, which is at the final stages, and also paragraph 104 of the NPPF, which collectively seek to protect existing open space unless strict criteria are met, which I do not believe they have been. There is a conflict with a recent dismissed appeal. So in my opinion, the inspector's decision is a material consideration that should be given significant weight, and identified harm and conflict with the local plan that outweighs the benefit of the delivery of 2 dwellings, where the local plan, which is now at an advanced stage, sets out that the council potentially does have a 5-year housing land supply. Therefore, the tilted balance in respect for housing delivery should not be engaged. This application must be assessed on the basis of a flat balance. The previous inspector's decision, which is a material consideration, and the identified harm have been set out. So in terms of the Central Lancashire Local Plan, members are entitled to afford significant weight to the submitted local plan, given that it's now reached examination stage, the final stages in fact. Importantly, the policies within the plan can continue to protect existing open space and land that contributes to the character of an area, therefore reinforce rather than weaken the council's position in this case. So in addition, where the council is able to demonstrate a 5-year land supply, the tilted balance in favour of housing is not engaged, as I've said previously. So for these reasons, for the policies I've already stated, which I'll go over again, Chorley Local Plan, Policy HW2, BNE 9, sorry, not BNE 9, that's my mistake, Policy HC6 of the submitted Central Lancashire Local Plan and the National Planning Policy Framework, paragraph 104 of protection of open space. I believe that the position on this site has already been tested and confirmed, and the harm identified remains today, and that the case for development is weaker, not stronger. So for those reasons, I'm quoting those policies, I respectfully urge members to refuse this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Hilton. Have I got Alexis, please?
I'm going to leave now.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I don't want to repeat what's already in the committee report. I'm only here really just to clarify a few comments with regards to the speakers before me. Firstly, the proposal would have no impact at all on any existing fishing. Any fishing rights will stay there, and there is proposed parking as part of the scheme. So there'll be no impact on any existing functional use of this land as open space. The development is really just relating to a small part of a car park and the scrubland. The site was, the previous scheme was indeed refused on appeal, but to clarify, the inspector accepted that the council's own evidence showed that this open space was surplus to requirements, and the evidence continues to show that. The reason it was refused was because of the visual impact, primarily as a result of the loss of a significant number of trees on the site. This amended scheme has reduced the scale of the development and doesn't result in any of the loss of any of those trees. So whilst there was a previous appeal decision, there is a change in circumstances, both in terms of the nature of the proposals and national policy in terms of the weight to give to small sites. So we consider it is perfectly reasonable to reconsider this application. There's also been suggestions about the tilted balance not being engaged and significant weight to the emerging plan. The tilted balance is engaged by virtue of the fact that the council does not have a 5-year housing on supply. And there are unresolved objections to the local plan. So until such time as the local plan inspectors confirm their position with regards to that, the council is still in a scenario where they have no 5-year supply and the tilted balance is engaged. Ultimately, with regards to the comment on ecology, because this is a PIP application, it isn't necessary to submit evidence in relation to those matters, but it should be noted that at the previous appeal, significant ecological evidence was provided and it was accepted by GMEU, the council and inspector, that the previous scheme, which was for a larger development, would be able to deliver biodiversity net gain and would enhance the remaining area of open space in terms of its natural, semi-natural green space designation. So there's no reason to assume that this smaller development would not be able to demonstrate the same thing. We therefore hope that you support your officer's recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Okay, do anyone want to come back on anything? If not, over to you, members. I've got Councillor Snow as indicated to speak, and Councillor Southern.
Hi, thanks, Chairman. I'm really surprised to see this application. I thought I can remember the original application for the larger development on the site. I think it was turned down quite clearly. I'm very familiar with the site, mainly from observing it from the red herring, but it's very popular in terms of local use for fishing and people walking by. It is one of these permission in principle applications, so I feel a bit hamstrung in opposing the application because there'd be a lot to say, I think, about the ecological impact of this particular development. Yes, it's smaller than the one before, but it does take away quite a bit of recreational space. It's got some decent trees on it, and we've got a mill lodge that's completely surrounded by trees, and it's a really nice environment in Coppull, around the mill, and it makes the adjacent larger housing development, an attractive place to live. The only caveat I know the place is infested with rats associated with the fishing. So I would, I've heard some good reasons to reject this appeal by the objector from Coppull and Councillor Hilton. I would propose to reject this officer's recommendation on this.
Councillor Southern.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So the funny bit with this particular part of Coppull is it's ostensibly built up with very few green spaces. So I completely take on board some of the flack that Councillor Hilton's had to take from local residents who see this as basically as the little bit of paradise dotted amongst what was ostensibly industrial mill area. So I have great sympathy with that. I also, as committee members will know, tend to be rather pragmatic over planning in principle and have been for quite a few of the applications we've had put in. The issue I've got with this one is I'm not persuaded by it. Not for the reasons given over the tilted balance, etc., but the fact that I think it harms the character of this particular area in Coppull. That's my issue with this. Where you've got that little driveway in there, that little part where they do the car park, where they fish, that effectively is the break. And I think developing that kind of joins it on the rest of the housing. So it's kind of harmful by definition of what you're actually doing to it. So I would second Councillor Snow's proposal to reject this, and I would give it on the grounds that it's contrary to policy HW2, the HW6, and it also says it's contrary to National Planning Policy Framework 104, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Frank.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sutton stole my thunder as it was. I was going to second Councillor Snow, so with that, fine. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment? If not, I'll move to the vote. I've just got a proposer and a seconder for refusal for the reasons outlined.
Thanks, Chair. Just want to just to clarify the reasons for refusal. So it's the open space makes a significant and positive contribution to the character and appearance of the area. The erection of properties and additional areas of hard standing would introduce an urbanising effect, which forms into an area of open space which forms a break in the built form of the area. The proposal appears visually intrusive, or would appear visually intrusive, set against a woodland, eroding part of the openness of the street scene when viewed from Mill Lane, contrary to those policies stated.
Okay, yeah. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, please, Dan. So, amendment. Okay. Yeah.
So members have voted in favour of the amendment and permission in principle is not granted.
Okay, if you came for that, just for that item and you want to go, you can. You don't have to stay like the rest of us. Okay, item 3C, Millenium Way, Chorley, pages 89 to 106, with an update on your addendum. Ian's going to present this item. Could somebody go and get Alex back, please? Oh, he's here. The officer recommendation is that advertisement consent is granted for a temporary period of 12 months from the date of the issue, subject to conditions. I've no registered speakers. Ian, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks advertisement consent for the display of advertisement hoardings along the east side of Millenium Way, adjacent to an industrial development site. The signs are split into 4 sections of adverts promoting the industrial estate behind and are set either side of the vehicular access that has been constructed to serve the new development. The proposed signs are non-illuminated and form a barrier to the development site beyond. Their signs are highly visible and extensive, however at present they form an effective screen in relation to the development works that are taking place behind them and are viewed in the context of the large industrial buildings that are emerging on the site. As the development progresses, the signs would perform a less useful function and would not be appropriate over a longer term period. However, on the basis of a temporary short-term period related to the course of the development, there would be no unacceptable impact on the character or amenity of the area. In addition, no objections have been received from LCC Highways on public safety grounds who have assessed the proposal. Therefore, it is considered that the proposed advertisement is in accordance with the framework, and the application is accordingly recommended for approval, subject to a time-limiting condition. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Over to you, members. I've got Councillor Hilton and Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. I have no objection to this and I'm happy to propose officer recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. A tricky one for myself. I cannot support this application, although I cannot find sufficient reasons to refuse this. But I want to make some general points, if I may, Chair. I've got a feeling of deja vu with this particular applicant in terms of he should have said that this is a retrospective application because it's been in existence for quite a number of months. I'm appreciative at paragraph 4 of the report that due to particularly the comments from Lancashire Highways, that the height of these hoardings has been reduced and certain amendments have taken place. In terms of what's made me amused, Chair, is that, and a frustration, is that how many times does this particular applicant have to come before this committee to seek retrospective permission? I'm amused at, I think it's paragraph 20 of the report, where it says the signs were erected without permission and the signs were installed without advertisement consent, which is regrettable. However, the current application is an attempt to regularise the situation. Saying that, Chair, I'm appreciative of the fact that the condition is for a temporary period, but I would hope that if permission was granted, that bearing in mind past experience is that those conditions are actually adhered to and proper enforcement is done within that 12-month time period, Chair. Again, I won't be supporting it, Chair, for the reasons I've given.
Okay, I've got Councillor Southern, Councillor Wilkie and Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Lowe has already alluded to, once again, irrespective, it's disrespectful, Chair. If you know this is coming off, you should have this organised. It's not like you've got 1,000,001 other things to be putting off. And once again, we find ourselves in a position where it's a fait accompli. Yes, we're going to pass it. Yes, we've time limited it. Yes, it's prepared, we've conditioned it. But it's wrong, Chair. But fine, I'm happy to second the proposition as laid down by Councillor Hilton. Pass it. Thank you.
Councillor Will.
Well, actually, I think it looks a bit of an eyesore. It looks a bit like a Formula One pit stop. And when you're driving past, it says, come to Chorley, it's industrial, as you're driving off the motorway. It's too high, it's too ugly, and it just gives out the wrong message. We've got these super big warehouses here, and again, retrospective, oh, it's a naughty step, you know, I mean, that's bad, isn't it? It just flies in the face of etiquette, you know. I don't like it. Is it temporary? I hope so. But like I said, every time I drive past, and I drive past a lot, it looks like Formula One pit stop. Sorry.
Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be brief. I do think these hoardings are a distraction for road users. I appreciate Lancashire County Council have not made a comment. And like fellow members, I just think it's disrespectful for a professional company to always or regularly come back with retrospective planning applications. They know how to do it. Thank you.
Councillor Southern.
Come back on that, Chair. Pull in for a pit stop, Councillor Wilkie. When you're passing next, pull in for a pit stop. Whilst I agree with everything that's been said, Chair, the only thing I would say is I completely accept the commercial aspect of this, and as much that we've got empty units there and we do need to fill them, it adds to the economy of Chorley. But once again, I would simply reiterate, they go about it the wrong way, which is why it rubs us up.
Okay. Councillor Lowe.
Just a comment and a reference to paragraph 21 of the report in answer to Councillor Wilkie's comments, where it says the content displayed is questionable, misleading, and it's not a matter for the assessment of an application for advertisement consent. But I share Councillor Wilkie's views that it is a complete eyesore for the area.
Okay, thank you. And I really do think we should be getting back to some of these developers who do things like this and tell them it is disrespectful and it's not right and they should know better. Because they should. And it isn't on. And perhaps get it back to them that if we do pass it, they need to tidy it up a bit, make it a bit more appropriate. Okay, I'm going to move to the vote. Go on, hurry up.
On the basis of what you've just said there, could we not have a communication with them when we pass this to tell them exactly how we feel? Was that acceptable, Kevin?
We'll look into it, yeah.
We'll appreciate that as a committee, thank you, Chair.
Okay. No, I'm going to move to the vote now. Sorry. Right, Dan. Reluctantly. Okay.
So members have voted in favour of officer recommendation. The advertisement consent is granted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel free to go. Tell them. Pass on. Can they not use it for nature or out? TPO. I've not found me. I'm not turned over. I'm sorry. Pages 107 to 118. Kevin, you're presenting that.
Thanks, Chair. This report seeks approval to formally confirm Tree Preservation Order 2025 No. 4 relating to a group of trees located south east of Wifnell Fold, Wifnell. The order was made in August 2025 following submission of planning applications at Brandwood Fold Farm. The access track to that development runs directly alongside a group of mature trees, including sycamore, beech, lime and oak, all of which make a significant contribution to the amenity and character of the area, particularly given their position within the Wifnell Fold Conservation Area. These trees are highly visible from the public right-of-way and from the adjacent sports club, and they provide landscape value and a sense of historic continuity within the local environment. Whilst visibility alone is not enough to justify a TPO, their collective impact in terms of their maturity, good health, mean that they clearly meet the national criteria set out in national guidance. Although only one objection was received, the issues raised included concerns about maintenance, safety and the administrative burden of a TPO. These have been fully considered, but it's important to emphasise that confirming the TPO does not prevent reasonable tree maintenance from being carried out. It simply ensures that any works are properly assessed in advance so that the long-term health and public value of the trees is protected. Given the increased use of the track by construction and delivery vehicles, the trees are at real risk of damage, including root compaction and mechanical harm. The loss or decline would have a material and negative impact on the conservation area and on local visual amenity. For these reasons, it is considered expedient and in the public interest to confirm the order. Doing so will give it permanent legal effect and secure long-term protection of the trees. Members are therefore recommended to approve the formal confirmation of Tree Preservation Order 2025 No. 4 without modification. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Whittam.
Policy Officer recommendations.
Councillor France.
Seconded.
Anybody else wish to comment? All those in favour? I'm going to do it the old way. Because it's quicker. Right, there you are.
Thanks, Chair. This report is just for noting and is a short update on the implications of the Article 4 direction relating to houses in multiple occupation. So changes made by the government in 2010 meant that smaller HMOs, those between 3 and 6 unrelated occupants, could normally be created without planning permission. This left the council with no control over where these conversions happened, and in recent years we've seen a significant rise in HMOs across the borough. In response, council approved the introduction of an immediate Article 4 direction in September 25, which removed these permitted development rights and required planning permission for any small HMO. Since its introduction, the planning impacts have been manageable. We've received 3 applications for HMOs which previously would not have required planning permission, and these are currently being considered. Alongside this, we've dealt with 5 applications for lawful use certificates, claiming that the HMO use was established before the Article 4 direction come into effect. 3 of these applications have been refused due to insufficient evidence. 1 has been approved and 1 is still under consideration. On the enforcement side, 5 complaints have been received about HMOs. 3 have been upheld, resulting in planning applications or lawful use submissions, and 2 remain under investigation. 1 case has escalated to the serving of a formal enforcement notice, and this process is ongoing. Overall, there has been no significant pressures on the planning service as a result of the Article 4 direction. The volume of applications and complaints has been lower than anticipated and is expected to continue decreasing as the direction beds in. Finally, members should be aware of the potential compensation risk attached to immediate Article 4 directions. Whilst no claims have been made today, applications submitted before the 23rd of September 2026 could carry liability depending on circumstances, and we'll provide a further update on this in about 6 months' time.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, we just need Councillor Snow.
Just a comment.
Yeah?
Very much welcome the report. I think that it's vindication of our adoption of Article 4. We possibly feared worse consequences for us, but it looks like we've achieved something here, and we are taking back control for the council on the provision of HMOs in our community.
Okay. Thank you. I thought you couldn't talk.
Don't you start, Chair. I've got enough with bloody Dwarfy here.
Sorry about that.
Other than to say,
You're
Chair.
struggling.
Other than to say, you do realise I won't be able to speak at all tomorrow. Other than to say, aside from the Article 4, there's still work to do on the immunity side of it, which I know Black Office have been dealing with. A lot of work on that one there. There's legislation coming down the line, obviously, which they're going to take into consideration, but hopefully with the 2 in conjunction, we should be able to put at least some sort of control over HMOs and applications within here. And as somebody pointed out to me earlier, they've all gone to South Ribble.
Okay, are we happy to note that report? No. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. Again, just for noting, so if members have any questions about any of the appeals listed, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions from anybody? No? Oh, happy to note that report? Yeah. Thank you. I've no urgent business, so that's the end of business. Thank you for your attendance. Have a safe journey home. ICT, you can stop recording now.